Stu min friend, and welcome to another video, and 'tis the time again, my dear friends. The review of House of the Dragon. This time is episode 7, and once again I have to tell you how glad I am that somebody is able to make a good adaptation of a fantasy book. Now, of course, you can't escape comparing House of the Dragon to the abhorrent The Rings of Power, because those two fantasy series are coming out at around the same time. And I have to say, having read the source material, I do see changes here and there from the source material, but, well, let me tell you, once again, there is a huge difference between an adaptation and an abomination. And of course, The Rings of Power is abomination, but this, my dear friends, House of the Dragon is a very decent, a very good, actually excellent adaptation. Now, of course, we begin at the funeral scene of Laena, which, the really death of that character was different in the books. She didn't let her dragon Vhagar burn her. The truth of the matter was that, and by the way, there will be some spoilers in this video, so if you don't want this episode or the books to be spoiled for you, feel free to go watch the episode or read the books and then come back. So we know that she gave birth to her son, her and Aemond's son, but the son was disfigured, and 3 days later she got up and she wanted to go to Vhagar, the dragon, to ride her for the last time, but then she collapsed at the steps and then she died. Well, of course, the disfigured son died as well, but the fact is that she ended up dead, both in the show and in the books. Now, of course, what I liked about the funeral scene in the show was how masterfully they are portraying the differences between the different houses and nations in Westeros. So every single house has their own way to bury people. If you remember, in the Game of Thrones, there was this almost Viking funeral with the house of Tully. Then, of course, the Targaryens are using the dragons to cremate their dead bodies. And then here, at the beginning of this episode, we were able to see almost an Egyptian-looking sarcophagus being thrown into the sea, and that I appreciated very much indeed. Once again, you are able to see that as far as the visual aspect of the show, they have done a tremendous job. Once again, something completely different from House of the Dragon, which looks cheap, scene after scene after scene. It is interesting that the legitimacy of the kids of Rhaenyra Targaryen is dealt with very much indeed in this episode, which of course a lot of it is taken from the books, although those kids were described in the books as having pug noses and brown hair, which of course they do have brown hair, but here it is even more apparent that they are not the true sons of, Rhaenyra's legitimate husband, if you know what I mean and what I am referring to. They, of course, got married later, Aemond Targaryen and Rhaenyra Targaryen. In the show, it looks as if they were married very shortly after Laena's death. But in the books, I think it was about 6 months later. But, there are some time differences, there are some time shifts, and maybe some minor time compressions in the show, but once again, it's nothing in comparison with The Rings of Power, where they compressed around 3,500 years into a matter of a couple of weeks. So once again, that's something completely different. What I am also very excited to see is that we can finally see the distinction or the division in the house between the Greens and the Blacks, the part of the family who supports Alicent and they are wearing green, and of course the cast who are supporting Rhaenyra Targaryen and they are wearing black and red. respectively, and that is just fantastic. Of course, this all will culminate into even bigger events, and that I'm very much looking forward to. It is, after all, about the civil war inside of the house of the Targaryen. Now, one thing that I have to say that I don't really like still is that they got rid of the first actress who portrayed Rhaenyra Targaryen. I believe that they could have done it so that she looked younger then, and then when there was the major time skip, they could have made her look a bit older. I think that they could have pulled it off to keep one actress for the entire season. But what can you do? I will miss this actress. I love her absolutely. And, in my eyes, in my mind, right now, after, having seen the adaptation of the book, she's really the perfect visual representation of Rhaenyra Targaryen. But most of the episode has revolved around the sons and the daughters of Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent. And that is where it all starts. The illegitimacy of Rhaenyra's son is being brought up, and that of course sparks a fight between the kids, and Aegon lost. Lost his temper, but Aemond lost his eye. That's where. So we can see the clear difference between the two brothers. The first one is really a little bit of prick, isn't he? But the other one, Aemond, who was mocked at the beginning or around the beginning of the season for not having a dragon, is really changing 180 degrees. He goes and he tames Vhagar, which is, described in the books as the largest and the fiercest dragons in the realm. Because now suddenly she doesn't have a master since Laena died. And the scene where he just climbs to the back of the dragon and he almost falls down, and then he tames the dragon finally. It was something I'm going to tell you. It was an audio visual feast, let me tell you. And then after Aemond loses his eye, there is, of course, this long conflict scene in the main hall. And what I appreciate, once again, about this show, that they are literally taking scenes and passages and lines from the book. So, for example, when Aemond says, I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon, that was literally taken straight from the book, and that I appreciated very much indeed. Now, of course, we have to mention one more thing, and that is when Laenor, was kind of in the way of Rhaenyra and Daemon. He was supposed to get, rid of, but then we find out in the end of the episode that he really escapes. He did go away. He did in the books. He went to Spicedown, but he did indeed die. And even his body, if I remember correctly, was brought before his father. But who knows? His fate is open right now. His fate is not sealed in this particular episode, and we are yet to see what happens to him. I have to point out one last thing, and that is Viserys Targaryen, who is one of my favorite characters, and some people might see him as a weakling and not really a man fit for the throne. But I think that he has managed to keep the realm in peace to a huge extent, that he is a kind and a good king. Not a warmonger, not an evil bastard as many of the later and previous kings were, and definitely not somebody for whom the power would be the most important thing there. Now, of course, it kind of should be for monarchs and for kings of the feudal period, but it's nice to see somebody being genuinely like nice and good in the A Song of Ice and Fire world. Now, of course, there were characters like this in A Song of Ice and Fire, in the Game of Thrones, as the show was called. Eddard Stark being my favorite. Well, of course, we know what happened to him at the end of the first book and the first season. Then, of course, Jon Snow was really like a good. And then, like, more or less, there were some characters who were, of course, many shades of grey, but the light side in the end prevailed. But that's what I like about Viserys Targaryen. As of the moment, my favorite characters are the main trio, really, Daemon, Rhaenyra, and Viserys, as they were in the book, and I couldn't appreciate this adaptation more than I do right now. I have thoroughly enjoyed the 7 episodes so far, and I can't wait for more. Alright, my friends, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about the episode, and that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.